How y'all doing? I'd like to thank you all for joining us again on another episode of Cajun Corporate Cooking. I'm your host and chef, Chef No. Today we'll be preparing a New Orleans favorite of mine, jambalaya. Everybody loves jambalaya. So like I said, thank you so much for joining in to this episode. If you like the content, please feel free to subscribe on the link below. All right, so let's get into it. So when I make my jambalaya, what I like to do is start with getting the chicken prepped and ready for the frying pan. The reason being is ultimately jambalaya is what they call a mixture of multiple things. You can make many different types of jambalaya. I'm going to make a chicken and sausage jambalaya here today. But that doesn't mean you just have to make a chicken and sausage jambalaya. You can make a shrimp jambalaya. You can make an andouille jambalaya. I tried to mix a couple of things in there. Y'all see what they did? But today we're going to make I would call it pretty standard jambalaya with chicken and smoked sausage. Now, with the smoked sausage that I'm using, you can substitute that for a vegan option if you so choose to desire. You can substitute that with, instead of smoked, it could be just pork or turkey. It's whatever you like to do. I myself just use regular chicken breast. You can do farm fed. Chicken breast as well. I'm getting so many, advice from people out there, so I want to say thank you. But there's any of these dishes can be interchanged with different facets. Depends on how spicy and funky you like to get it. So right now I'm starting off with 3 chicken breasts. What I want to do is I want to cut them to an eating size and then season them and put them in the pot. I'm going to put in our buttering pot here. We're going to put it in our pot. I'm going to have about a half a stick of butter because that basically gets the flavor of the entire dish. Because then we're going to take from the chicken, we're going to put this in the pot. Then we're going to move on to your vegetable ingredient, and then take the chicken out and then put the vegetable in and put it all back in and let it all come together. So here we go. I hope you all are having a good week. We wish basically take the chicken breast here and cut it counterclockwise. Depends on who you're feeding or how you're doing it. If you want them diced or minced, I typically have them chopped. I don't really want them diced because I really want to have my guests enjoy the flavor of when they actually take in bite into this thing here, and you'll see here what I'm saying in a minute. So like this right here, this is big. It's a good sized portion, but I want to get it to maybe right here, so that way when you put a fork in it, you can just go ahead and savor the flavor, if you will. All right, and then when we're cutting this, again, I'm using a Capline chef knife. You can use a paring knife. You can use pretty much a plethora of knives. I'm just more or less, like I say, giving you tips and trips on the things that I think are good and the things that I like to use. It's to each his own, but ultimately they get the job done and put a nice coat on it. Now, as far as seasoning, we're going to use some of the same seasonings that we used yesterday, but the only thing different, we're going to use Chef Paul Prud'homme in here today, do a little meat magic, because it gives it the flavor that I think we need it to be at. And it kicks it up a notch, if you will. And we're also going to use some cayenne pepper, and we're going to use a little Tabasco, give it a little flavor there. Now, obviously, I want to add a disclaimer on the cayenne pepper and tobacco. Again, I don't want anybody coming up with any kind of heart issues or falling out. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not fully jerk, in terms of like habanero pepper, but it is hot. So when you put this on your ingredient, make sure you put it on there with moderation. It's not something you want to go in too heavy with. It's more or less, a couple shakes here and there. So we've almost got the meat to the complexity of where we want it. Like I say, you just want to make sure you get about, the full board kind of cut up here, and make sure you have them minced and diced to the texture in which you have them. Some people, like a little more larger. Some people like a little smaller. It depends on you. Like I say, I'd like to cook them to where you can get a really good portion. And also, speaking of which, be mindful, because once we put this in the grease, it's going to cook down a little. So you want to watch that as well. You don't want to leave them too small to where it's shrimp bites, if you will. We want to make sure again we savor the flavor. So when you've got it to about this point to where everything's pretty much cut up here, I start with my base seasoning as always. Tony Chazar's is pretty good to go to. You almost can't go wrong. This doubles with season all and just regular salt. But to me, it's a really good putting that base coat on there on the top layer of your chicken. All right. Then I want to come across with the with the meat magic here for Chef Paul Prunin. It's a really good flavor, and you got to be careful with this because this could get away from you. So you want to just coat it, but not go too much. I'd say with this, maybe 2 or 3 tablespoons, And as we always talked about with your cayenne, you want to go really less aggressive on that. You want to go teaspoons with this, maybe 2 or 3. And famous chef in New Orleans, just push the pinches out there. I don't want to put the spoon out there and challenge myself, but I'm pretty sure that's 2 to 3 tablespoons. And you want to put same thing here, about a couple of shakes of the Tabasco to shake it up right. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a half a stick of butter to an already warm saucepan. As you can see, get that nice in there. We want to go ahead and roll all around in order to make sure that we don't burn the butter. All right. And then what we simply want to do with our tongs here is go ahead and place your chicken right in the pot, like so. Okay. And as we're placing the chicken in the pot, let me see if we can get that angle for you. We want to place it in there with the season facing down into the ingredient. Now, obviously, we know the reason why we're doing that. We want to make sure we get the season on the bottom, so that way we can come over the top with another coat. You want to get that real good flavor texture, which is what we're looking for. So ultimately, once we finish putting these thongs on here like so, and get all of our ingredients here, we're going to go over the top of this with the same 4 ingredients that we just used to create a top coat layer. And we're going to let this simmer on the back iron while we go over to our ingredient, okay? So like I said, we're going to go Tony's. Nice little top coat. Meat Magic. Pinch of cayenne. Just a pinch now. Don't go overboard. Don't do it. And your Tabasco. Okay. All right. So while that's working over there, we're going to take and bring in our ingredients. So we're going to start with 3 green onions or shallots. It's typically up to you. This piece right here, 2 or 3, you can't go wrong. And we're just going to mince them as so. For time and convenience, because we're trying to get these meals down to about 15 minutes to where you can have a good meal. I'm going to go ahead and use a Black & Decker. Let me go ahead and put this in the screen here so you all can see it. It's a Black & Decker food processor. Ideally speaking, can I mince these down for you? Of course. And as y'all saw yesterday, I'm an expert cutter, wink, wink. But today, for the interest of time, we're going to go ahead and put this into our Black & Decker food processor. And go ahead and mince these up for us real quick. Now, like I said, with the green onions, you want to do 2 to 3. With the onions, you can do 2 to 3. Depends on what size you use them. Today, my onions are going to be about yay big, so 2 should be just right for this dish. And we're going to go ahead and put this in the Right. Cool. And so what I'd like to do here at this particular point is take the green onion out and put them to I already had one of my onions already pre-processed here for you all. And put them right into this little saucepan bowl here. Because ultimately, once our chicken stops working there, what we're going to do is combine all of this and throw our butter and our sausage and rice in. And just like that, we're going to have a bon appetit jambalaya. I know sometimes when you hear jambalaya, it seems to be a, oh man, this is a bare grizzly of a dish. It's not that complicated as people may think. All right, so we got that done. Throw this away. Come back to a cutting board here. And we're gonna go ahead and get these onions here. Now, hey, you gotta make sure you tighten up on these onions, all right? Don't wipe your eyes, don't do anything. Otherwise, it'll be a long cooking day, for sure. Just cut right into there. I like to cut right into the middle of them. Half them a little bit, okay? So the same here. And ultimately, when you cut into them, it kind of saves you the time of peeling the top part of it off or the layer. Makes it a little bit easier. It comes off like so. And you want to dice this down to a good temp so that way it'll process a lot quicker. Okay. By the way, feel free to send me suggestions on what you feel like you want me to cook. I've been cooking since I was 8 years old. My grandma Parker told me how to cook, and my daddy and my mother, of course, we got to shout them out. Otherwise, they would blow my phone up and say, "Swerve, I taught you that jambalaya recipe." So big ups to mom and dad on that. All right. But ultimately, this is one of these dishes that you can get in here and knock out. Like I say, we like to do everything about 15, 20 minutes. That way you can get on in and watch the game, which what I'm going to do a little later today, and have you a nice meal prepared. And ultimately, when we get a little further on in, like I say, y'all send me some suggestions of what you want. Perhaps we'll start talking about some different pairings of wines and what goes well with what, which is a good thing. Because I do like to enjoy a nice spirit when you have a nice dish with you, right? Cool. So we've got this pretty much cut up here. I made it through without any tears here, which is a good thing. All right. Cool. All right. So we got that knocked out. We're going to go ahead and process this real quick. So we've got this working right over here, processed nice and neat. And then what we're going to do now is turn this over. Look at that texture. So once we turn this over on the other side to where the meat cooks on both sides, we're going to take the meat out, put it in this bowl, and then we're going to fry all of our ingredients. So y'all come on back right now. We've got this beautiful jambalaya working. Talk to you soon.